I cooked up a goddamn storm this weekend. I went out strong. All right? So the great Jay Lawhead, Rose Bowl tailgate legend, Jason Lawhead, he goes to put together the menu, right? And he just doesn't go, we're doing burgers, we're doing dogs. He doesn't do that horse shit. Jay fucking analyzed, like Bill Belichick. He fucking looks, okay, Oklahoma's playing, Georgia's playing. So next thing you know, he's like, well, in Oklahoma, they do this tri-tip something or other. So he gets that going. I tell him, hey, you want me to make a pie this year? He goes, yeah, why don't you make a peach pie for Georgia? And he ties this whole fucking Oklahoma-Georgia thing together. It was incredible. So I've never made a peach pie, right? And I know peaches are out of season. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to go down there and buy some fucking out-of-season peach that some poor fucking bastard had to pick off of what used to be his own property down in Costa Rica, whatever the fuck they do. However they do the fruit nowadays. I said, fuck it, man. I'm going down getting them canned peaches. I'm going to get some goddamn canned peaches. So I got some canned peaches. Picked a fucking recipe off the internet. And this is what I found with recipes on the internet, okay? They're going to get it to you so it tastes really good. But they're not going to give you the recipe where it tastes great. So what they're going to do is they're going to, remember that guy? I'm going to bring it up a notch. Bam! And he'd be screaming and yelling, and he had that fucking band. Emeril Lagasse, right? Remember how he used to take it up a notch? What they do on the internet is every fucking recipe, they take it down a notch. They take it down a notch, and then they fucking remove something. They take something out, some little special spice. So anytime you're making a fucking pie, here's a little sage advice for you. All right? It's going to be the usual, okay? If you're doing some sort of fruit there, it's going to be basically a quarter cup of flour and like a cup of sugar. And then there's going to be cinnamon, nutmeg, possibly vanilla, I don't know, some sort of bullshit. And they're going to say an eighth of a teaspoon of this, a fucking teaspoon of that. Fuck that. All right? They say eighth of a teaspoon. Take a nice helping of it with the eighth of the teaspoon. That's what I do. Throw that shit in there. What do you want, a teaspoon? I'll give you a teaspoon and a quarter, maybe a teaspoon and a half if I'm feeling crazy. Right? You just kind of bring the levels up on everything. And then you think, what else would they have in there? They probably, squeeze a little lime on the peaches, before they fucking do all of this shit, right? Maybe a little vanilla in there. And then you always got to throw a little bit of butter in there too. Mix all of that shit together. Then you taste it. You throw a little more sugar on top. You bring everything up. That's what I did. And I got to tell you, man, I got rave reviews on a peach pie. Who knew? People, if you don't try to explore the limits of your talents, you'll never truly find out how great your life could be. So I made a peach pie. I made a practice one with Nia. And here was the deal. I didn't have a lot of time, so I actually went to the store and bought a store-bought frozen pie on the bottom, sacrilegious, and then I made a homemade one for on top. Cut my work in half. And then there was all this weirdness where the one on the bottom was kind of done, but the one on top wasn't, so I took it out. And, Nia took one bite of it and just goes, does that shit. And I knew she was right, but I also got mad at her. You know what I mean? Because I'm lazy. I didn't want to go back, so I fucking egg washed the goddamn pie because I forgot to do that. Sprinkled some sugar on it, threw it back in. Then it was better, and I made a decent pie. But then I brought all the levels up, and the one that I did to the Rose Bowl fucking crushed. Or maybe people were just being nice. I don't know. I also made a quiche Lorraine. I've always wanted to make a quiche. I mean, who doesn't like eggs? Who doesn't like pie? I mean, right there, you got both things going on. This is breakfast and dessert all at the same fucking time. And I go to make this thing, and of course, Nia's all over me, looking at this, looking at that, looking at this. I fucking stick the quiche in there. All right? Do the whole damn thing. I fucking 45 minutes in, I give it the little poke with the tongs. It still looks jello-y as hell, so I leave it in for another 10 minutes. Then it looks pretty much solid, and I'm getting nervous that I'm going to burn it, so I take it out. I let it cool off. A couple of hours later, I cut into it. It looks a little runny, but I'm too hungry, so I don't give a shit. So I'm eating it. It clearly needs to go back in the oven for 10 minutes, but it's fucking delicious. So I go, Nia, try this. I think it needs to be, I think it needs to go back in the oven maybe for 10 minutes. And she just cuts in and she goes, ooh. And then eats it and goes, And I just went, you know what? Fuck you. And she's like, what? I'm just being honest. I'm like, I know. I just want, but it still tastes good, right? She goes, yeah, but it's runny as shit. It needs to go back in the oven. I'm like, well, you could have said it tasted good first. And she stormed out of the room. And then I was like, oh, come on, honey. Come on. I'm sorry. Sorry. I won't be like this in 2018. So I put it back in the oven for like another 10 minutes. Actually, Nia did. She finished the thing off, and it tasted fucking delicious. And then, before the fucking Rose Bowl, the night before, I'm thinking, all right, Lawhead is going to be making his classic fucking breakfast sandwich, which is basically a English muffin. He puts a little Havarti cheese on one side, and then he has this avocado spread he does on the other side. Then he cooks this fucking egg to absolute perfection, where it's not too runny, it's not over hard, it's just perfect. Not quite over medium. It's sort of like a medium rare. So when you bite into it, the egg yolk oozes out, but it doesn't fall out of the sandwich and all of that shit, right? And then also he had marinated this tri-tip that he put on top of that, and it was the best fucking eggs. It was such a good egg sandwich, I only had one. Because he goes, you want to have another one? It's like, no, I don't want to kill it. You know what I mean? And the night before, I had made these hash browns. The thing about it is you don't want to make the fucking things, but you also don't want the things to turn all brown and shit. So I actually did the whole mix and then put it in a fucking Ziploc bag and squished all the air out of it I possibly could, stuck it in the fridge, and it was fine. I cooked those fuckers up on the side. At that point, I was a little shit-faced. I think I overdid it. That's right. I was already drunk before breakfast even came out. All right? We had already loaded up the truck. We put the Game Changer in there. The Game Changer, who, by the way, all right, the Game Changer is a flat-top griddle with 4 burners. All right? And the propane gas. I'm telling you right, that's what the fuck you want to bring to a cookout. That thing, it's just, you never have to worry about your fire going out. There's not all of this pressure. There's none of that shit. You just turn that fucking thing on. Jay's just like a short order cook. The last 2 years, I've never seen him so relaxed at a cookout, because before, we had a hibachi that's way down here. We had another one that was up on its legs. This guy's he's doing like fucking 400 squats an hour, trying to cook everything, making sure his fire doesn't go out, timing shit. And he cooks the whole time. It's not like he's cooking one thing. He cooks a breakfast, then he cooks something in the middle, then he cooks the dinner. So he was always having to add shit and coals and all that. I mean, this is over the course of like 6 hours. So the flat top grill that Jay Law had dubbed the Game Changer, he was just crushing it all day. And I had gotten these things because this was our 10th Rose Bowl in a row. And anybody who's married knows that your 10-year thing is tin. And not only do they know that it's the tin anniversary, there's no way you can go out and buy something made out of tin for your wife only, and she's going to be happy with that, unless you met an absolute sweetheart who doesn't mind being broke, or doesn't mind that she married a cheap fuck, one or the other. Anyways, so I went out and I got these flasks made up for me and Bartnick, because we were the original guys. It was just the two of us the first year. So I got a giant Roman numeral 10, like the Super Bowl, engraved on the front, and on the back I just had Joe Bartnick, Rose Bowl tailgate legend, and then I did like the American Express, the member cents, and it had 09. And next year, Lawhead gets his, and in 2 years, Themelis gets his. Although I have to correct his because I already had him made up and I thought that they both came in 2010. Anyway, so I'm out there throwing the football around. I got some booze in me, right? I smoked a little weed, which I never do, but I'm just trying to lay off the booze. And this is why I don't smoke weed, is because, with booze, if you reach for a bottle of vodka, basically what the punch to the face is going to be. Or if you grab a beer, you know what that's going to be. You grab some wine, you know what that's going to be. When someone goes, hey, you want to take a hit of this joint? You don't know what the fuck it is. Is it that shit that just kind of makes you feel like, hey, man, like, everything's going to be all right, man? Or is it going to have you just fucking staring at a goddamn tree? So, I don't know what are you supposed to do? Just take one hit and then stand there and wait for your face to start melting and be like, oh, well, it didn't? This is why I'm done with fucking weed, too. So I take a fucking hit. I don't feel anything. I'm like, oh, this must be the light one. So then I go back and hit it about 2-3 times. And next thing you know, I'm telling everybody at the tailgate, I go, hey, man, listen, I know I'm really high right now, but look at that fucking tree. Isn't that tree is fucking, that's like some shit out of a horror movie. Look at that. Look at the way it's like bent like that. And they're just laughing at me. And I am so at peace that I don't care that I'm actually, I don't give a fuck that they're laughing at me. I'm just happy at that point that I'm bringing them joy as I make a complete fool of myself. And I'm drinking from the flask. And then Jay throws a burger on. We got this grass-fed fucking meat, dude. It might have been the best burger I ever had. But also, I was so high, I was just talking to people about this fucking tree, which felt like an intense minute. So it was like at least probably like 11 minutes. I ate that burger. It was fucking amazing. And then I went over to a chair. I sat down and I passed out for like 2 hours. Jay was making these fucking meatball subs on a brioche bun. And I the last like 4 or 5 years in a row, I have missed the main course. And by the way, Americans, call it a main course. Don't call it the entree. All right? In French, entree means to enter. That's actually the beginning of the meal. And somewhere across the fucking ocean in the scurvy and the fucking slavery and the indentured servitude, whatever distracted us, we fucked that up. Entree means to enter. That's the beginning. Okay? So just say the main course. And for the main course, I'll have this. What do you have for entrees? So I missed that. I woke up and I tried the pie with the a la mode. It was fucking delicious. Everybody loved it. And at that point, I was kind of fucking sober because I was actually way more high than I was shit-faced. And I didn't even smoke a cigar. And I went into the game. And I just started, anytime a vendor came by, I just started crushing waters. I was already on the wagon. That's how fucked up I got at the tailgate. Like, like when you're still legally drunk and you're already back on the you're telling people I'm on the wagon as you have like, literally they could light your breath on fire. That's when you went too hard. I don't really have any fucking stories about the tailgate because I barely remember it. Other than it was fucking awesome. I do remember I was drinking Miller's. I was drinking out of that flask. I had, once a year, I had Miller and Miller Lite. Miller Lite comes back with their old school, less filling, tastes great bottle. So I had a couple of those. I threw the football around lefty. I vaguely remember that. Oh, and then somebody at the tailgate told me a fucking story about how Garoppolo ended up on the fucking 49ers. Evidently, the Cleveland Browns were interested in getting him, but Bill Belichick still holds a grudge against them for his time, 1995 when he was coaching it, which I believe he was also with fucking what's-his-face, Nick Saban there. So he's like, fuck that. And he calls up the 49ers. He goes, give me a second-round draft pick. We'll give you Garoppolo. How fucking nuts is that? I've heard a couple of those stories recently. Anyways, my shoulder's been doing great, and then I fucked it up at the tailgate, by the way. I was throwing left-handed, doing all right, making sure I was giving my right shoulder a rest and everything. I hadn't felt any pain in my shoulder for days. Long story short, the end of the tailgate, we're going to close up the table, and I'm on one side with the other guys on the other side, and we're folding up the legs, and the one was getting stubborn, and where I had my fingers, it fucking slammed down on both of my fingers, right? Just wham, and I went, fuck, and I pulled my arms out. I was basically reaching around the fucking table, like I was giving the skinniest person ever the finish. Who had that finishing move in wrestling? Well, they just put you in a fucking bear hug and they would act like you were being crushed to death. I was doing that with the table. So when I went to yank my arms out really quickly, it was like I was throwing two elbows at the same time. And I felt like fucking lightning in my right shoulder. And I think I went right back to square one. I don't know what the fuck I got to do. I think I'm going to do that Kobe shit. Rogan told me about that whole stem cell shit, and I just get scared of that stuff. I don't know. The way Joe Rogan is fearless and will read up on something and then make an informed decision before he takes a step in that direction, I just hear about something new, do not read up on it, and act like an old lady who thinks the fucking sky's falling. That's the way I approach life. So I haven't done that yet. My shoulder's still fucked up. I might do that thing where they take your own. What I like about that fucking spinning of your blood is it's your own blood and then they shoot it back in, right? Although I would want to watch them the whole time, follow them around with my own blood to make sure they don't take like the fucking blood of a yak or a fucking chimp or some shit, whatever they're doing these days, to try to get that thing fixed. All right, here's my breakdown of the game. Fucking, here we go. This is going to be an intelligence breakdown of the game. Oklahoma's going no huddle the whole fucking first half. Georgia's goddamn head is spinning around. They don't know what to do. Right before the half, they kick an onside kick, which I get. There's 6 seconds left. You're thinking, all right, I don't want this guy to run this ball back. We'll kick it to an up person. We'll fucking tackle him. Yada, 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 and that'll be over. Who the fuck knew Georgia was going to come out, throw a quick fucking pass, get in field goal range, and instead of being down by 3 scores, 17 points, they're only down by 2 scores. We're like, dumb fucking move. And Georgia's getting the goddamn ball. All right? No, I'm sorry. Oklahoma got the ball. They kicked off to them. That was the thing. They were up by 17 fucking points, and they were getting the ball after the half. I mean, they had their foot on their fucking neck. I get the onside thing. I don't fault them for that. But in the third quarter, when they stopped going no huddle, they started playing Marty ball, and they're trying to bleed out the fucking clock, I actually get that fucking move. But then Georgia scores a touchdown. Now they've scored 10 unanswered. You're still trying to bleed the clock. They score another touchdown. Now they've gone 17 unanswered. You're still in your huddle. They score 24 fucking unanswered points to go up by 7 before you finally decide out of the fucking blue to go back to no huddle. And the second they go back to no huddle, Georgia has a problem again. Bam, they score a fucking touchdown. I'm running out of sound effects. Gazawi, they fumble the ball, you return it, now you're up by fucking 7. You got to give it to Georgia Bulldogs. Them Georgia goddamn fucking Bulldogs. Hey, they came back, tied it up, and for the first time ever in 100 and I don't know how many goddamn years of the fucking Rose Bowl. All right? They had an overtime game. And it doesn't just go to 1 overtime, it goes to 2. 2 overtimes. Congratulations to the Georgia Bulldogs on an amazing victory. I don't know why I was actually, even though I'm a big SEC guy, I was kind of torn. I was a little emotionally torn. I was rooting for Oklahoma for whatever fucking reason. I just decided I was going to root for them. I don't have anything against Georgia. But I was actually also on another level kind of psyched to see Georgia win because Jay Lawhead is so fucking pissed that Ohio State didn't get in, and he thinks the SEC is totally fucking overrated. And, you know, he was arguing for the Pac-12. He was at one point he was fucking arguing, and I was like, Jesus Christ, Jay, it's 8:00. You're already fucking whining about the Buckeyes. And he said the most innocent voice ever. He pointed at somebody else at the tailgate. He goes, he brought it up. He went from like going, and we fucking we beat Penn State. And all of a sudden he just goes, he brought it up. So I thought it was kind of funny, you know, and then Alabama also won. So both SEC teams that got in are now going to play for the championship. So the SEC is going to win another fucking title. And it just cracks me up that that's going to bug Jay Lawhead. And he just will not admit that the Ohio State Buckeyes had no fucking business last year of being one of the Final Four, considering they lost to Penn State and then Penn State won the title. He goes, Bill, you're not listening to what I'm saying. I'm saying that Penn State got screwed. But that's all he'll say. He will not say that Ohio State did not deserve to be in there last year, despite the fact that they then went there and lost 24-7. And he's, fucking Deshaun Watson was fucking unbelievable. It's like, dude, he wasn't tackling guys too. You scored no points. So I feel like Ohio State this year got punished for the fucking snooze fest. They basically ate their balls last year and wanted to get another Saturday night 8:00 spot at the club. They're like, no, buddy, you're going to get a Wednesday. And I actually think that Ohio State would have done great, you know, considering when I watched their game, how their front four are all first and second round draft picks on the defensive side. I actually agree with Jay Lawhead, but like, you don't get your cake and eat it. You don't get to suck and get in and lose by 24 points and don't even score one fucking point the year before. And then the next year when you're actually good enough to get in, also get rewarded, you know? So that's my beef. That's my beef with Jay Lawhead, but I still love the guy to death. So we'll get over it. Anyways, amazing fucking game. And, We went the whole game without having an incident until the very end. I don't know what happened. Bartnick was, you know, a little boozed up, and I think he bumped into somebody in front of us. And this fucking guy, who I swear to God was as old as me, starts yelling at Bartnick, and Bartnick is just staring at him, and I'm just staring at him. And he's like, I'm being nice. Stop bumping into me. And we just fucking stare at him. And I'm looking at this guy like, dude, you're as old as me, and you're yelling at the human version of a fucking Kodiak bear. And the guy didn't know he was waiting for us to respond, and we didn't respond. But he was just Lawhead. We were all just staring at the guy. And then he just looks at Joe, and he goes, fuck you. He fucking turns around. It's like, dude, between all of us, we're about 225 years old. This is the first Rose Bowl ever that is going into fucking overtime. You want to get kicked out? You want to roll around on these stadium floors with your fucking... This guy wasn't even wearing True Religion jeans, which have become dad jeans in the last fucking 12 years. He was probably wearing the Lee jeans, and on the tag it just said in giant bold letters Lee, you know, which where I came from basically meant, you know, your family could barely afford to live in a blue-collar town if you had the Lee jeans. The Lee jeans and the Gap jeans, you know. You had to have Levi. You had to have Levi. That's how simple life was back then. If you had Levi, that meant that your parents were actually doing well. Okay, and before diesel jeans came in and just fucked it all up. You know, jeans were like $25, $30. And I know with inflation, we'll just say jeans were like $50, right? Then all of a sudden diesel comes along and they're like twice that. And the next thing you know, there's like $200 pairs of jeans. that suffocate your balls and still can't get up and over your flat ass. I don't fucking understand I don't understand jeans. And then they're tapered in down the bottom like you're going to do ballet and people need to see your feet. Right? Like you're going to reenact the Thriller video. I don't know.